Okay, so what I've gathered here are going to be the many sizes and stages of the oysters in the oyster farming process. This right here, you can barely see those tiny little oysters. This is 2mm seed. This is what it starts out as. This stuff we'll purchase generally from a nursery, and it actually goes right into this screen right here. You can see it won't fall through the screen. The water will come up and feed it. And that is typically one way to grow 2mm seed. We've never tried that yet. We've got this machine right here to try that. I will show you how we do grow 2mm seed. So we will take our tiny 2mm seed, basically this stuff, it's a little bit twice the size of a piece of sand, and we will put that into a green mesh bag. This is 0.75mm, and then it's got some mesh on the back for rigidity. I'll take this PVC pipe, put it over top so nothing can get out, and we will take this here bottom cage. This is inch mesh, double stack. Use clean gear for this, and we put about 8,000 in each of these, and we will load them into said bottom cage. About 4 in there, 8,000 per. That means there can be 32,000 2mm per cage. These are, so for these oysters we can put 4 in each section. We will keep them in there for about, with the smaller oysters you've got to basically check on them every 2 days. So this is what we have typically been doing with relative good success. We'd say our mortality out of that is probably 20% or so naturally. To get from that size to this size, it's a little bit bigger. We do the same thing. Those 2mm black bags, depending on what size you buy that, we'll take them and they will go right and easily into a bottom cage. Now, one of the tricks with these is we can put multiple black bags into each section. So sometimes we'll put 2 in this section, 2 in that section, 2 in that, 2 in that. So you can really get about 32,000 oysters at 4mm in these cages too. And then even to get them from that size to what we've typically used, this is a 6mm oyster. This oyster is what we started on. This is one of the easier oysters to start with. What we'll do with this, you're going to need 4mm bag. This is a black mesh bag, 4mm hole aperture. Ideally you 4,000 oysters per bag. They've got more volume to them, so they're better than the 2 mils. If you can see, the 2mm really doesn't have much volume to them, so we're able to put the same amount of larger oysters in this one. And so typically there will be about 16,000 oysters into this cage. Now, with dealing with all the oysters, dealing with basically all these oysters that had to go into these other oyster shells, 2mm, 4mm, and 6mm, we have a special sorter that we use to, this is our small little seed sort bags. Come right on here and it vibrates them. As you can see from some of the dead ones, the 6mm won't go through the holes, they'll come right out the end. On these holes, it vibrates down, comes out this chute, and it'll go back into a 2mm bag. Now this is where things start moving around a little bit. From the 6mm, which we could either purchase or grow through those bags, to something that'll go something a little bit larger after your first tumble of your oysters in about 6 to 8 weeks. You should have something like this coming out. How you will get those is through our tumbler, which I'll show you here. We'll take the first, we'll put the 6mm stuff through from the 4mm bags, and we'll use this tube right here. This tube will separate them. Anything that comes out of the first hole, that's going back into 4mm bags. Anything that comes out of the second is going into 9 mil. Now these oysters, they've been sitting on the bottom in the 4mm bags their whole life, and you can tell that they haven't really been shaped. So what we will do is we'll take them, and these, for the first time, will be moved into these floating bags. This part of the process is to shape the oyster. Go into these floating bags. It's not on top, in front of the water column, but you can see what it does is it gets some kind of shiny and almost polished up and all kind of more uniform shaped oysters. These oysters don't have a lot of fin on them, so they will sit out here for a few more months. It's also winter time, so they're not growing as fast. But just makes a beautiful oyster. And then we will take them from here when they're ready and put them back into the tumbler. 3 months, and they will come out a little bit bigger. These oysters are not the prettiest, but I worked with what I had, and these are about the size that will come out of the floating bags when they get to this size. Now for the stuff that comes out of these bags, and we are looking to anytime there's hurricanes or we don't have enough floating bags and they're not quite markets, but we want to finish them on the bottom. We've got some leases that we do that on. We just kind of like the way it finishes it better. We've got a different size oyster cage. We've got also a 1/2 inch oyster cage.